Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. I thought it would be a good idea to do this after Wave 1 Trials here has concluded. Bring on the head coach of Jersey Wahoos, sponsor of this podcast. Once again, how are you, Paul? Paul Donovan.
I'm doing great. Just back from Omaha, Nebraska yesterday from Wave 1 of Trials. So like you come back from any swim meet, you come back excited, especially after something like Trials, but also glad to be home at the same time as well after a week away.
Yeah. So the main point of this podcast is really for me to explore my jealousy, because all my friends were out at Trials seemingly, like I was having extreme FOMO, fear of missing out. As I was sitting at home, my friends were sending pictures of them hanging out, giving me updates from the meet. So give me a flavor. Just give me your headline impression of Wave 1 Olympic Trials.
Well, the Olympic Trials it's like an event that we don't get an opportunity to go to very often, and a lot of people in the sport, if ever. So it is a really, really special opportunity and a special environment to be in, because it is mainstream sport brought into the swimming world for this short period of time. And in my previous role back in Ireland, I've been to high level international meets, and none of them have the surrounding fanfare that the Trials has. I think they have a lot of the excitement and the high level swimming that goes on, but maybe not quite the external interest that is definitely brought to the Trials meet. So you're right to be jealous. I think everybody in the swimming world should aspire to want to be there, because the experience is just such a positive one.
I still remember my first Olympic Trials, and I was telling you before we started recording, 2008 was actually the first national level U.S. competition I went to. I was covering the meet at a media pass as part of flow swimming, and Garrett and I were one of the only two people that were sitting in the media seats. So the media seats were sort of, if you can visualize the start end of the pool, sort of the left rear corner. And just being there on the first night, Ryan Lochte, Michael Phelps, both go swimming under the world record in the 400 IM, 14,000 people in the stands screaming their heads off. And we looked at each other. I just never forget, just being I can't believe this is a swim meet right now that we're at. Obviously there's some differences, right? Since the Trials meet had been separated, since there weren't going to be packed stands at the meet. But in terms of all that excitement, what do you think USA Swimming was able to preserve from what would be a normal Trials meet?
So I'm like you. I hadn't been at a Trials meet since 2008 either. So it's 13 years ago, and sometimes you forget what all the different things you do in between, right, what that experience was really like. But by the same token, when you first walk back into the building and that, you get that same kind of goosebumps feeling. Hairs in the back of your arm and neck just stand up a little bit. So I think there's something special about the site now, because they've done it a few times, and probably because that Trials in 2008 was so unique the first time they did it,
right,
in terms of the amount of spectators, probably the amount of media coverage and all that was going on, and because they don't go back there any other time.
Right.
They don't run any other meets there. Even in Indy, you go to an NC2A meet, you might go to a US Open meet. Some people might go to a college dual meet there. There are other opportunities to go into those facilities. In Omaha, it's only ever been for Olympic Trials. And I do think that in itself preserves it as a special place for the swimming community to go and kind of, descend on once every 4 to 5 years. So I think having that, keeping that venue, even though it was going to be a smaller event, even though you weren't going to have the same spectators, even though they had split it out, I think that in itself was was a really important thing that they did, and that on its own helped preserve some of that feelings for people as they go to attend, whether it was last week or whether it's going to be starting on Saturday this upcoming week as well. So, but I'm sure that can't have been easy for them.
No,
I'm sure changing dates and longer duration and all those things that go into it. So I think their commitment to keeping it in Omaha in itself, I think, is the starting point for that special feeling. And then the other thing that they did was, despite the fact that the crowds aren't going to be as large, everything else around it was the same.
Yeah.
So, the setup of the facility, it's still that, it's like a large conference. The warm-up pool or the swim-down pool and the hospitality areas, the athlete areas, the staging areas, the lights and the spectacle when the kids are walking out, the TV coverage, which they still did as well, which puts a different type of atmosphere and feel around the finals as well. They preserved all those things.
Yeah.
So really, the only difference I felt was just the crowd, the independent crowd. Was obviously not the same, and you do miss that atmosphere then, especially at the finals.
Yeah. Speaking of a little bit more like the organization and conduct of the meet, I want to make sure I don't miss an opportunity to. I'm somebody who's always known for sharp criticism of USA Swimming, but I want to give them credit as well. For me, this is kind of the most fantastic meet that they run. Talk a little bit about why or how it's such a well-run competition.
Well, I think in these times, when nothing's ideal at the moment for anybody, and right. I think people in the US probably maybe don't understand or appreciate still how challenging it is in the rest of the world. As I'm from Ireland, and today, whatever date we're on the 8th of June. 2021 is the first time in, I think, something like 200 and something days that swimming clubs have been back in the water to train in Ireland. Yesterday was I guess the Irish equivalent of Memorial Day was yesterday. It was the June bank holiday weekend, and it was the first time that an outdoor hospitality had opened up in a year. So the first time a pub had served a pint of Guinness, or that a restaurant had been able to serve a burger and chips, and that's only outdoors as well.
Right.
So we've been really lucky in the US with the opportunities that have been afforded us. So when you go to an event like Trials and it isn't what it normally is, it's still so much better than what's out there for a lot of people. And a lot of work went into, I suppose, getting to that stage. So I felt all the COVID related stuff that were put in place was like, it's annoying. It's, everything's annoying around COVID, but they made it really seamless. The organizers, and whether that's USA Swimming and the people from the Omaha tourism industry that are involved in the event as well, but the COVID side of it was really seamless. We had to get a PCR test between 3 and 6 days of our first official activity.
Okay.
We did have to arrive 48 hours ahead of your first official activity.
Yep.
Which there is a cost element to that for some people, but
right.
It is what it is. And then when you arrived, you did have to go also do a rapid test on site as well. And the only sort of pain in the butt for people was they just had to sit around for 30 minutes to wait for the result.
Yeah.
That was it. That was all that was asked of us. And then once that happened, you have to get it redone every 4 days if you're staying there for an extended period of time. But again, if it's on site, it's upstairs. You walked out of the pool, you walked up a flight of stairs into a room, and through that process, and it was really seamless. So I thought they did a fantastic job of that side of it, of the COVID side of it, and making it as seamless as possible for the participants in the meet, whether that be obviously the athletes, but the coaches and the support staff as well. And I'm sure there was a huge part of being allowed to put an event like that on. And I'm sure for every pain in the butt we have to go through, it was magnified by 100,000 times for the guys organizing the event to get to that point. So they did a great job of that. And then just the event itself, Chris, and as we said, it's just not your typical swim meet. It's like going to a concert, or it's like going to a major sporting event. There's loads of extras around the place. There's athlete areas. There's good coach hospitality. There's things for the spectators up in the stands, and there's lights. The start of finals from the national anthem through to the I don't know what it is, but the major screen that's comes out of the roof that's in the middle of the pool, and the show that they put on that. It's
called a Jumbotron, Paul.
Jumbotron. Okay.
I know it's very American, the Jumbotron.
Well, yeah, we don't have them at football games or rugby games back then. So, so it's just incredible, and it just creates this really exciting atmosphere. And as I said, it's somewhere you get to go that we don't get to go on a normal basis. And it's just so much fun. And I think the other side of it is that there's a lot of people excited to be there. Yeah. And maybe that's a little bit different for a swim meet as well.
Yeah, I think, it's sometimes a fair criticism of swim meets can be that, like I remember when I started coaching, I was also always a little insulted when he said this, but, I coached for Mike Schnurr at University of Pennsylvania, and he always had this turn of phrase where he would say, like, so-and-so swam. He would say, like, yeah, he swam a 4,600 freestyle at a blow-off meet. And I always thought, like, what is a blow-off meet? Is that a meet where everybody just shows up and goes, I don't care how I swim at this meet? Like, I never quite understood what it meant, but I do know, that sometimes the atmosphere at a swim meet can feel like a little rote, a little bit. People just sort of like, okay, now I'm going to go up behind the blocks. Now I'm going to race. Now I'm done. Go swim down, on to the next one. Like, it can get a little bit. And certainly, it's hard for that to happen at trials when you're coming up those stairs. There's bright lights in front of you. The pool deck has been entirely, there's no coaches on the pool deck. I mean, that's something that is very different. So it's very hard to not feel the weight of the moment. And sometimes that has, I think, can maybe inhibit the highest possible level of performance. I mean, another thing you and I were talking about before we got on here is how few personal bests are achieved at a meet like this. But it's almost not about that, I mean, I think sometimes in swimming we actually get caught up in getting the meet designed to get the highest level of performance and ignore the fact that sometimes it's also just a competition where people show up and they race and they, see who can get first, second, third. They see who can make the top 8 and get into finals, et cetera. And I feel like this meet had much more of that second thing and less of that focus just on the raw sort of like, how fast did you swim? Does that sound fair?
It's totally fair, and it's something we talk about often. I think when you go to a meet like trials, whether it be wave 1, whether it be wave 2, whether it be 2016, and they're all together, I think the same could be said for NC2As compared to some of the conference meets as well, and for loads of different events. You go, that the level of percentage of best times is quite low. And there's tons of reasons for that. I think, and so some of them are based around the psychology of the performance, and it is like the trials. It's an event like nothing else. So we had the 2 girls Erin Kavanagh and Annie Beam out at the event, and they both did themselves really proud, and they both made it back into the A finals, and they're walking out in live TV. Yeah. I'm prepared them for that. We haven't saying our sport hasn't prepared them for that over the past, whatever, 10 or 15
It's a huge
years.
leap up in pressure. Yeah.
Huge leap up in pressure. And then there's the other side of it. When you go to some of the highest level meets as well, it's really, really, really hard to get there. So a lot of people have to go all in to give everything they've got and have the swim of their life just to get there.
Right.
And it's hard to turn around and replicate that sometimes in a really short space of time. You could have had people qualify for Olympic trials, and within 7 days, they're back up on the block again. Yeah. And that actually might be easier to do than the people that maybe qualified 28 days ago and have to kind of figure out that balance of holding that line of performance all the way through 28 days. So you've got that side of it as well that I think leads into the people swimming personal bests or not swimming personal bests. But the great thing about the Wave 1 meet was just that level of competition, and where, again, USA Swimming or whoever the people are behind the decisions that set the meet up, did a great job of giving some meaning to Wave 1.
Yeah.
Through having A and B finals. So these are kids that, if we're just talking law of averages and rankings and stuff like that, these are kids that wouldn't have been getting second swims. Yeah. If it was one combined event. So it was a tough thing, I'm sure, for some of them that they weren't going to be at Wave 2. Yeah. And if we just take it was one of the necessary decisions that USA Swimming had to make. They did a really nice job of giving some meaning and purpose to the kids that were at Wave 1. Because what these kids got is they got an enhanced experience from the point of view that a lot of them did get a second swim. Yeah. And then got that experience of walking out on live TV and being able to handle that pressure on yourselves and learn how to enjoy that experience and enjoy that moment. Or if you didn't enjoy it in the moment, to be able to reflect on it and maybe learn how to handle that type of pressure on yourselves as you go forward. Yeah. So that was a really nice thing about it. And when we look at the racing side of it, coaches, we're walking hypocrites, right?
Well, speak for yourself, Paul. I've never been hypocritical in my life.
But as a profession, we always, process over outcome, process over outcome, process over outcome. And then, we get to any old swim meet and it's outcome.
Right. The kids swim and then we go, oh man, I know they could go faster than that.
Yeah. Instead of really looking at the components of performance and using things as stepping stones. So this was another opportunity to really talk to the kids. And one of the things I spoke to Annie and Erin about, we went out there on, I'm really bad with the days of the week at the moment.
You flew a week ago, so it was June 1st, Tuesday, June 1st.
Oh, yeah. We flew out on Tuesday, and we were there. The meet started on Friday. Yeah. So we swam at home on Tuesday, and we flew out after school on Tuesday afternoon. And we were out there Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday, Annie had her 100 backstroke, and then Erin time trialed the 200 freestyle. And they weren't very good. Yeah. Either of them, and from their own terms of expectations, but also just technically and tactically as well. Not just the overall performance wasn't good, but they weren't their best swims. And we came back that evening just to get in and swim. And one of the things I spoke to them about was, hey, look, if I get up tomorrow morning and I fall down the stairs, I don't get up and I don't say to myself, you know what, all those times over the past 6 months when I've been walking down the stairs, what a waste of time that's been. What the heck was I doing wrong over the past 6 months every time I walk down the stairs? What a waste of time. I've just wasted the past 6 months of my life walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah.
No, what I'd normally do is go, geez, I got to look around myself. I would have noticed that there was a bag in front of me that I tripped over in the moment.
Right.
So I said to the kids, and sometimes we do that with our races as well. You get out of the race, and if the outcome isn't the one you wanted at, you go back and you just throw away the last 3 weeks, the past 6 months, and saying, oh, what a waste of time it's been, rather than sit and look at the 1 minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes of the race that you just did and say, well, what did I do in the moment that wasn't executed the way I've been preparing to execute?
Yeah.
And what information am I going to take away from that and try to do better the next time? So I think sometimes, as we all get caught up in it. Coaches do, parents do, athletes do. It's really normal. We get caught up in trying to say, well, I deserve performance. Look how hard I work. Look at all that I sacrificed to be here. I deserve to swim really fast.
Yeah.
And they're right.
Yes.
They do. However, unfortunately, life doesn't care. What you've done in the past or what you deserve to get out of it. And you still got to be able to execute and perform in the moment. And what was really good about trials was there was a lot of people not swimming best times. It was easier to have that conversation.
Right.
Because you can have a shared experience, even though you're not there all 600 of you together, you can still have that shared experience of it and talk to the athletes about it and get them to really look. The other great thing USA Swimming have is they have video review ability. You can go look back at the races. The kids can look back at their races. You can do it together separately and come back and talk about it then. So, there's a really good teaching opportunity. And because most people are going to trials with a smaller number of athletes than you'd normally be going to a swim meet with, you have that additional time as a coach to really invest it back into the swimmers that are there and just have some time to talk to them about, critically evaluating and critically analyzing your in-moment performance rather than taking a step back and looking to criticize your preparation and all you've done over the period of time leading into it.
Yeah. I want to just put some structure around what you're talking about, because it's actually basic optimism, pessimism that you employed there when you were talking about walking down the stairs and stuff. We have a tendency when an event happens that triggers a negative emotion in us. And when you don't swim as fast as you can, it's totally normal to be disappointed, to be angry, to be sad, whatever. Our natural inclination is to attach some permanence to the event. And we do that retroactively as well. So exactly as you said, you look back. We've seen this as coaches all the time with swimmers. They have a disappointing race and then they go, wow, all of a sudden they doubt their preparation because they've retroactively applied that disappointment back when it's not really accurate to it. So it takes work. It takes active sort of interruption of the cognitive process to compartmentalize it and sort of isolate it almost to the 1 or 2 minute event that happened. Yes, that was a disappointing event. You want to make sure it's good to acknowledge that, but also, work against attaching that long-term and retroactive permanence to an event and letting it color your perception of all those other things, because it inhibits your motivation, it inhibits your ability to perform better. And both of them went on from that point to, this is a good segue into, went on to make an A final at the meet. How are they each feeling when they achieved that, when they were able to make it into the final?
I think obviously they felt really good.
Yeah.
And I think it did help. And they're lucky it doesn't always work out this way, but they did have that first day.
Yeah. Sometimes you do have to swim your fastest race like on the first day, which is another degree of difficulty, right?
which is why I think it's so important. There's, you've probably heard me say it before, but there's a quote, used often with kids and parents and coaches by a philosopher named John Locke, which is, it only ends once, everything else is just progress.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so important to look at an athlete's development over an extended period of time, because, out of all the swim meets that they'll go to, only one is ever going to be their last one.
Sure.
So, that's just more opportunity to learn and take it on to the next one. So, but they were lucky in this instance, I think, going into trials, and obviously they're 17, 18-year-old girls. They'd never been at the trials 5 years ago. So this was their first experience of a meet like this. So they were lucky that they had that first day. And that's why we made, Erin do that time trial on that first day. And then on the second day, Erin had her 400 IM, and she was just better for having done that first swim.
Yeah.
Obviously she has a plan, technically and tactically how to go about the race, and she actually did just a superb job of sticking to her own plan. We always try to tell them, and that, especially that first 50 of butterfly, just swim it smooth.
Yeah.
Stay off your legs. Don't get caught up in the craziness that goes on in going out. And she did a great job. She was last in the heat to the first 50. I think she was like second last at the 100. And then she just built into it from there, and she ended up winning the last heat and kind of qualifying then, comfortably. I think she was fourth qualifying back going into that night swim. So she was, I think, really happy with herself about how she executed the race, and then really happy probably that it worked for her as well.
Sure.
That she was able to let them go a little bit on the butterfly, and still have the ability to build back up in the backstroke and then really attack into the breaststroke and the freestyle.
Yeah.
So that gave her a great amount of self-confidence in herself, and just some self-affirmation as well. So she was really happy coming out of that, and then really excited to get to come back at night. Mm-hmm. Because I think everybody at the Wave 1 meet probably had an ambition to try and get a second swim, because it wasn't the biggest meet. So everyone's so bunched together.
Sure.
Like that 100 back, Annie swam on the first day. It was like, 101.9 to 102.6, 40 people. That was that's the time they'd swum to qualify. Now, obviously, it opened itself up actually when people swum it, but everyone had a shot. So that was great for Erin. And then we made Annie time trial on the second day. So she wasn't feeling so good after 100 backstroke. And again, I see her every day and what she does in practice. And, I have absolute confidence in the kids and what they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
And she probably just needed to see that for herself a bit.
Sure.
So she actually time trialed 100 freestyle then after Erin's 400 IM. And she swam great. Night and day from the day before. Again, and how she put it together, and then also the time was better, which made her feel good about herself as well, and just again some self-affirmation that, hey, I'm not awful.
No,
well, of course, and it doesn't matter how many times we as coaches say that, or their parents or their friends, they have to get to that place themselves.
Yeah.
So, and that just helps set her up then for her 200 backstroke on the third day of the meet, and again, she had a really good swim in the morning and put it together really well. Again, kind of didn't get overexcited going out, finished really, really well. And that last 50, just got her in 8th place, and she got back for that A final on the third night of the meet, which was great. And I think, she handled the experience then of the walking out, the camera in your face a bit really, really well. Because if she was in lane 8 going into the final, if you're in lane 8, that's the TV side.
Yeah.
So you're going to get some, there's going to be more people around you that side of it, of the pool, and that from the non-swimming people and that. And she did a great job of just staying in her lane and staying focused and standing up, and did a real good job at night time again.
Yeah. Well, I think it was really exciting to follow back from home here and just have a couple people at the meet that were there and really like made their presence known at the meet. I think that's it's cool. I mean, having been there as a spectator, basically, or sorry, media in 2008, and then as a college coach in 2012, certainly haven't had that experience of somebody actually swimming at night. All that said, though, we agree. Let's just hope we have one Olympic trials meet in 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I think all those positive things I've been saying are all said in the sense that they did a great job in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. By no means, I think, should this be a blueprint for the way forward. Because if this was done as I had a choice, I'd have some very different thoughts and opinions on it.
Yeah.
I think they made it. They made wave one exactly like wave two, as we said, with the setup and all that, and that was really important to give those kids the experience. They got the added value then, because they weren't in wave two. They got the added value of that opportunity for a second swim, and for a whole bunch of people at the meet had the experience of that second swim. And I think that's a kudos to the organizers for giving some meaning and purpose and giving something extra back to the kids that missed out on being at wave two. But there's no doubt I feel it as a swim fan, as a professional swim coach, and for someone who cares deeply about the experience that the athletes have, I am sad that I am not still in Omaha.
Yeah.
And I would love the kids to have had that experience, to be around to see what the sport of swimming can be.
Right.
And I think when we talk about performance, even in terms of warming up, we always talk about you try to warm up at the level above you're trying to perform at. And I think Bill Sweetenham had when he was in charge of British swimming, used to try to bring the kids. He had a competition philosophy: was you compete 3 times at your level of performance, twice above it, and once below.
Yeah.
So there's great value of going to that next level up of performance, even if you're not going to get that second swim.
Right.
Even if you're not going to get that best time. So I would hope that in 3 years' time they go back to the one Olympic trials. And because the other side of it, practically, and this was one of the talking points at the meet, it's a huge strain on programs financially.
Sure.
The 2 waves. So there's the financial, and then there's also the personal side of it from a professional point of view, that there were guys coming and going, and there were some people that are just away for an extended period of time, and that presents its own sets of challenges as well.
Right.
So
I can't imagine having to explain to my wife if I had to go to 2 waves of Olympic trials. It would have been it would have topped the "Hey honey, can I spend 12 days in Azerbaijan" conversation from 2015 in terms of her going, "You want to do what?" So would have set a new personal record for me if I'd had to explain something like that.
Yeah, so there was a lot of coming and going at wave one. There was coaches that were there at the start of the meet that left when their athletes were done because they knew they'd have to come back. You saw a lot of split staffing situations going on at the college and club level.
Because they need somebody to coach the wave 2 swimmers and stay with them.
Yeah. And you know what? There's a whole lot of other swimmers that aren't going to wave 1 or wave 2.
That's right.
And they matter equally as much. And they'll have their Olympic trials at some stage this summer, whether it's at JOs or whether it's at the summer league, end of season championships or whatever it is. So everybody's experience matters. So there's that side to it too. So there's a huge amount of coaching coming and going, and a lot of split staffing situations going on. So for a ton of reasons, I would hope to go back to just the one Olympic trials format. But for the main reason for being the experience for the athletes.
Yeah. Should they stay in Omaha? Now I'm asking you philosophical, unfair questions. Do you like them staying in Omaha? Because there's always discussion about doing it somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'm probably the wrong person because I hadn't been in 13 years.
Sure.
So I haven't had 1, 2, 3. I haven't had 4 experiences in Omaha.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where some people have. So there is that side to it. The one thing I would say though is, and we said it earlier on, having it somewhere that no other swim meet ever has been or ever will be only adds to the air of mystique and the aura that is attached to Olympic trials. And if they did decide that, hey, we've done it 4 times here, we're going to look for something different for the next time, I would hope that they don't just go to a normal swimming venue.
Right.
Because it's not a normal swim meet.
Yeah.
And we never want it to be a normal swim meet.
No.
We want it to be just something different and there's something special. So I think having it somewhere said that swimming is not involved at on a regular basis is a really, really good thing. If they can get that somewhere else, the other thing I say about Omaha is that it's easy, in that the airport is close to the
the
facility.
airport's like 3 miles from the facility.
Yep, 3 miles away. The hotels are all within walking distance. I'm sure there's some programs that will have vans and stuff like that, even if they're only staying 5 minutes up the road, and that's fine. But there isn't the need to invest in that side of it. And look, today with your ability to order food online now, there's enough places again within walking distance to eat and socialize for fans and for staff as well, to be able to in the evening time to go and spend some time together as well away from the swimming pool. So there's loads of pros to it, and if they were going to ever move it, I think they're all factors that they have to consider. Yeah. Is that if it is meant to be in, and the facility itself is so vast that you're able to do things like have off-deck experience at the event for participants is different as well.
Yep.
I think there's a load of factors. I'm sure they consider all these things. So if they're ever going to move it, my thing would be go somewhere where swimming has never been and is never going to be in the intermittent years in between trials, and go somewhere where the experience away from the pool can be just as positive as it is in Omaha.
Yeah, I agree. Preserving that part of it, I think that whenever I hear conversation about doing it somewhere else, I think you have to have a clear understanding of how many things have worked really, really well in Omaha. And you can't, as you're visualizing the grass being greener on the other side, don't lose sight of how many things work really, really well, because you want to hold on to those things. You only really want to make a change if you can get an improvement on that. And I think it's actually a tall order with some of the stuff they've set up.
And that the whole, and again, maybe I've got my terminology wrong here, but the whole Visit Omaha organization, they're phenomenal. They seem to have a lot to do with the hospitality end of things, and in this instance with the COVID testing and stuff like that as well. That experience is not always a pleasant one.
No.
That type of interaction with people. These people were super. Just made it, they're so nice, and it made it so easy, and that is not necessarily the norm when you go out into the wider world. So I'd agree. I think
I'll return to Azerbaijan. I don't think I'll get myself in too much trouble now, 6 years later, but not the best country to visit and be warmly greeted at the airport or anything. All right, Paul, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about all this stuff, talking through trials with me a bit, and I guess I'll see you in a little bit here in the office. All right.
Indeed. Yeah, yep. I'll be in. Thank you so much.